Hello and welcome to the Toronto Daily News for Thursday, January 3rd, 2019. There were two evening shootings, one at King and Shepherd, and then another 15 minutes later, Warden and Metropolitan. Um, the first one, between Scarborough and Pickering, the victim is in serious condition. And then in the second one, police were unable to locate anyone. There's also a Mississauga shooting in Mississauga just after 10. One boy who was in critical condition after the car crash that involved five teens he's now stable. Police have released photos of assailants who were involved in a fight with a man at Queen and Bathurst that now has him in the hospital. So if you're in the area at the time, take a look at the photos. Might have seen something. CTV did this kind of funky news report on changing travel trends, people wanting to go to more quote unquote upscale beach type resorts and do more educational and cultural stuff and more environmental stuff. And they, in reporting it, they chalked it up to social media and people wanting to take selfies. So you want to have a more authentic and nicer adventure. And I'm thinking like, okay, the touristy, I'm just thinking like, okay, all the cheap places have gotten way too touristy and annoying and crappy, and nobody wants to be there, including the locals. And so, of course, everybody wants a better situation, and CTV thinks it's because of selfies. I just think that's funny. So Congress in the States got its first demographically diverse House of Representatives. And heading it is Nancy Pelosi. And so tomorrow they're going to be, or on Friday, they're going to be meeting with they're going to go bat with Trump about the government shutdown. So now the shutdown and the border wall fight has entered its next stage, and it's going to be Nancy Pelosi, this powerful female American lawmaker or persona, going up against this woman-hating like Democracy Now! Just aired this thing about how Trump was one of the frequent flyers on this guy Epstein's basically sort of child sex tourism extravaganza situation, along with Clinton and stuff. So this is the man that she's going up against, except for now he's president and he doesn't want anyone to get paid until he gets his damn wall. So we've had this thing between China and the U.S., well, in Canada, because taking sort of, I guess, political prisoners, you could call them, charging them with espionage, charging them with being security risk. And so now that's spreading to the relationship between the U.S. and China. I mean, Russia. So yesterday I was making all these like word slip-ups and stuff. And so I'm hoping to not at least catch myself today. So now we've got this Russian spy basically in the States who got arrested for not signing up as a Russian spy in the States. They didn't register, and maybe I'm badly oversimplifying that, but so they've charged an American with espionage in Russia, and they're holding him. Back in Toronto, police have charged Marlon Green, 35-year-old Torontonian, with attempted murder for he on Sunday he went up, shot into this house through the door, hit this man who was inside. The house was full of people, and so this is near Kennedy and Shepherd. This is like during the evening. I mean, Christmas evening. This guy comes to the house and starts shooting through the door. So nobody died, but so he's been charged with attempted murder and use of firearm with intent. A driver who plowed into a bus shelter and a man who has ended up in hospital in like serious but stable condition has been not charged, but issued a careless driving ticket. And this is pretty typical of when drivers are found to be at fault for injuring, and even killing pedestrians and cyclists. This is really typical. They'll get a fine and no charges. And so this is happened again. I mean, this is in the context of Toronto's Vision Zero campaign to eliminate road fatalities, and the pedestrian and cyclist death toll continues to go up, and we're not the pedestrians and cyclists we have not managed to kill anybody yet in Toronto. A cyclist managed to kill somebody in Britain, but not yet in Toronto. So China has broken new ground in space, not really in space, but on the dark side of the moon. They are not going to meet us on the dark side of the moon. They are now just doing whatever they want there. That's the sort of nervous, paranoid fear of everybody since the United States, of course, Trump announced he's like, I'm going to create a space force. I'm going to militarize outer space, inner space, sort of like nearby space. And so, now China has beaten us to the dark side of the moon, and they can do whatever they want there without anybody seeing it, and do tests and military stuff. And this is a huge step for China's really fledgling space thing. But of course, they've demonstrated the ability to build something super, super, super fast and hit it out of the park on the first try. And that's exactly what they've done here. They've actually got a rover driving around on the dark side of the moon. So there's this kind of stock market collapse going on, and it's not like it's started by Apple or whatever, but Apple's at the focal point of it right now. But it's dragging a whole bunch of other, the rest of the market down. But basically, what's dragging the market down is this anxiety about the sort of trade war between the U.S. and China that's brewing, or that's being precipitated, or something like that. So for somebody like me who doesn't understand the world of finance, this is as clearly as I understand it. But it's like Tim Cook at Apple is like, well, we're just not doing as well in the Asian markets as in China as we thought we would with our $1,000 phones in the land of not only the cheapest iPhone replicas ever, but also the land of better and cheap cell phones, super, super. So it's kind of this like, okay, well, are they losing because they've it's funny. Apple used to just get blamed for its own mistakes. When they tried to put out a $9,000 home computer and they were like, yeah, well, only super elite weirdos will buy it anyway. Nobody bought it. No, not even the super elite weirdos. And so they've kind of, they've put out expensive, like overpriced stuff in the past, done badly with it. But now that they are kind of the company of the earth, they they can just say, well, it's because of Trump. So it's hard to know what to make of all that, but I definitely know if I was in China, I'd be even less willing to buy $1,000 iPhone than I am here, and I'm already pretty unwilling to do that. It's not just because I'm poor, but in China, your options are so much better. So, York Avenue or Road or whatever it is between Bremner and Lakeshore is going to get shut down for a long time till April 2020. They're going to expand the path system. And so there's this funny note from police, or authorities recommending that like commuters in general, but they included, cyclists in this list. They're like, cyclists and drivers should try to, use alternate routes instead to avoid this area that will be lane reduced. And so it just kind of shows the city or authorities don't understand urban cycling at all. This is going to, the actual news story is that now this segment of York at least is going to finally be accessible to cyclists because it's just going to be one lane in each direction, just like has happened with Eglinton during this crazy construction situation. The Eglinton and Yonge area has become accessible to cyclists. And this is probably what's going to happen with York as well. So it'll be interesting to see what the next 2 years of that look like. It's going to be basically boring. So Friday is going to be warm and sunny and bright. Like, if anything, you're going to need your sunglasses. That's going to be kind of humid, of course, because it's winter. But really calm, no real wind, and clear. So if you got to do some, really bright photography, or if you really, this is Friday, this is TGIF type of weather, except it might be too bright for you, especially, after these dim days and stuff like that. So sunglasses today. So in the more random Toronto violence news, so at 8 p.m. around Dundas and Sumac, this guy on a bus starts acting crazy, whips out a knife. He's threatening, I don't know if he's threatening, acting crazy with a knife on a bus. Everybody left the bus. Nobody got hurt. Cops catch up in the area, but the guy had already fled, so they're searching through the area. So this white guy, about almost 6 feet tall, wearing a fur hat, a long black jacket, black pants, and a black and white bag, just freaked a whole bunch of people out on a bus. And we'll see what happens with that. Probably nothing will happen. The guy will be like, I can't believe I did that. And for years, he'll be like, be careful in life. But they might just catch him. So remember the story about the woman in Vancouver who died in one of those donation bins that we also have here, that can kill you if you are desperate enough to, crawl into them. So not into them, but like try to sort of reach into them the wrong way. The CBC did a news story about her. She was a homeless lady who was in the habit of collecting clothes for other homeless people. And the company that owns the bins is removing them, all of them province-wide, pending a redesign. So during evening rush hour, and this is a little wacky because nobody else reported on this. CTV and Global didn't notice it. They reported on sports and news instead, between car commercials and insurance commercials. And it's not on the police services Twitter, which I'm it's Twitter, but still I'm a little skeptical about the story. But somebody reported it on Reddit, and apparently at St. Clair and Alberta, a streetcar smacked into this SUV. The driver was trying to make an illegal U-turn at the time. The streetcar actually got derailed and was blocking the other streetcar line that's coming perpendicular to it. and yeah, pretty wild crash. But I got no more info about this. It might not have even happened. It could be a huge prank, but who knows? Hopefully we hear about it. So in lighter news, somebody last summer, you might remember this. This somebody wanted to open up a like sex parlor where you have sex with robots, with dolls, and female dolls, because why would women be interested in having sex with male dolls, or why would but so it was just going to be female dolls, but Councillor John Fillion brought up this 20-year-old motion of his own that he made like 20 years ago to restrict adult business in North York. So they were supposed to open in the fall. They couldn't open in the fall. A week before they were supposed to open, they had their lease canceled because of this provision. But they have been running this thing. So this is Blog.to has written this great article about it. They've been running this thing like secretly and probably in multiple locations, because when Blog.to went to do a little bit of research about this, they talked that the accounts they got from the people who had sort of infiltrated it, to do journalism stuff about it, had different accounts of like the places that they were visiting. So apparently this has been, So Aura Dolls through their website might just book you in for a bang session with some dolls, and then they'll tell you where it is. I haven't researched how much it costs. So the Star is reporting on this new sports outlet, the sports news outlet called The Gist, by women for women, and it's been started by these two financiers. Got the idea while they were chatting about sports. See what happens with that. As somebody who doesn't report sports news, who doesn't like sports in the news, and who likes sports shows about sports, but I mean, obviously, most sports shows are super intense and super macho, and so it'll be interesting to see what happens with that show. And that I've run out of news. That is the news for Toronto for the third day of 2019. I feel like I'm missing a piece of news, but of course there's always one more piece of news. Have a great December 4th.